Imagine this. You're thousands of feet above the Earth, flying in the world's fastest spy plane. Everything seems normal, then bam, a missile alert. It's locked onto you. You glance at the instruments, less than 50 seconds into impact. Your heart's pounding, the clock is ticking. What on earth do you do? Welcome to our deep dive. Today, we're looking at an absolutely extraordinary, really heart-stopping moment in aviation history. It centers on the legendary SR-71 Blackbird, and specifically a really nail-biting encounter it had over North Korea back in 1981. For you, our listener, we're going to unpack that critical intelligence mission, the terrifying near miss, and maybe the surprising reason why the Blackbird was just, well, the ultimate escape artist. We want to show you why this specific event perfectly illustrates its unmatched capabilities, and really how a radical design philosophy ended up saving lives. Okay, so let's set the scene here. The date is August 26, 1981. You've got North Korea under Kim Il-sung really flexing its military muscles. Tensions on the Korean peninsula very high, and the West desperately needs intelligence.
Not just propaganda, but, what's actually happening on the ground. They needed to understand North Korea's order of battle. That's essentially where their forces are, what they're capable of, their strength, that kind of thing. And back then, there was really only one system, one aircraft that could reliably get that vital information.
Right. And what's so fascinating here is, even 17 years after its very first flight, the SR-71 Blackbird was still considered the best spy plane in the world. Nothing else came close. It was uniquely suited for these incredibly difficult, almost impossible missions, like specifically locating North Korea's anti-aircraft missile sites without getting shot down in the process.
A very dangerous job. And the crew for this particular flight, this critical one, Captain Pilot Maury Rosenberg and his reconnaissance specialist, Ed McKim, their task was to fly over the demilitarized zone, the DMZ, that heavily fortified strip of land dividing North and South Korea. Everybody knew, it was common knowledge, that the entire area was well within enemy missile range, a real hornet's nest.
Yeah, exactly. And the mission profile itself, it called for them to make multiple passes. I think the source said anywhere from 3 to as many as 4 passes, east to west to east, etc., just back and forth over that incredibly sensitive border. Now, the plane, of course, it carried equipment specifically designed to warn of enemy air activity, electronic countermeasures, warning receivers. And Rosenberg and McKim, they'd actually already completed 2 full passes. No warning lights, no signals on their monitor. Everything seemed quiet. But as Rosenberg later said, and as the source notes, you never really relax on a flight like that. You just can't afford to.
And that caution, well, it turned out to be completely justified, didn't it? Because it's August 1981, and amidst what the sources call renewed hostilities, suddenly North Korea fires. They launch a Soviet-made guided missile directly at the Blackbird.
Instantly, the situation just escalates. Rosenberg, the pilot, he immediately gets a visual on the missile. He actually sees it. He described it as rapidly climbing right towards them.
Oh.
And the crew, they knew instantly how little time they had. The estimate was less than 1 minute to impact. Specifically, maybe less than about 50 seconds. It was a true, terrifying, ticking clock moment up there.
Wow, less than 50 seconds. Just hearing that number.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes my heart pound, too. What does a pilot even start to do in that situation?
Yeah.
Especially in a plane like the Blackbird, which, yeah, it's incredibly fast, but it's not exactly known for being a nimble fighter jet, right?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's terrifying. Rosenberg's options were, well, incredibly limited. His only real recourse was to try and somehow outmaneuver the missile. But like you said, that's much easier said than done in an aircraft built for straight-line speed, not dogfighting agility. This is where the crew's training, their instincts, their split-second decision-making just became absolutely critical. It was actually Ed McKim, the RSO, the reconnaissance specialist, who saw a possible way out. He immediately advised, let's turn off track. And Rosenberg's response, immediate. Okay? Just like that. Trusting his crewmate.
Okay, so they start to turn, and the source says they went towards the left. A conscious decision, apparently, not to turn right into North Korea. Makes sense. But like you mentioned, the Blackbird, even with its unbelievable speed, it doesn't have the agility of a fighter jet. So as they initiated that turn, did it work? Did the missile change course with them?
No. And that's the really startling, almost counterintuitive part of this. As they banged left, Rosenberg was watching that missile, and he noticed the missile didn't change course. Not one bit. It just kept coming straight at their original flight path. Just this terrifying projectile on an unswerving trajectory.
It just kept going straight. Then what happened? That critical moment, the source says, out, missile exploded.
It sounds almost too simple, like pure speed was some kind of magic shield. How did that happen if they couldn't actually outturn it? Well, this is where the genius, the the radical foresight of the SR-71's design really comes into play. It's fascinating. The Blackbird was saved purely and simply by its speed. Oh, think about it. The enemy ground radar locks on, calculates an intercept point, fires the missile. But the Blackbird is moving so fast. By the time the missile gets near the predicted intercept point, the Blackbird isn't there anymore. It's miles away already. The enemy controllers, they just don't have time to recalculate the target coordinates and redirect missile.
No.
It wasn't about agility, about dodging. It was literally about outrunning the enemy's ability to calculate where it would be. The missile's guidance system just couldn't keep up.
So it wasn't outmaneuvering the missile itself, but outrunning the tracking solution. That's a fundamentally different way of thinking about defense.
Yeah.
Incredible. How close did it actually get then, if it just flew past?
Well, Rosenberg said he saw the missile go by on the right side and explode. Obviously, judging distance precisely at that altitude and speed is incredibly difficult. But his guess, his estimate, was probably within a mile and a half of the aircraft. And then he added pretty dryly, that was a little close.
A little close. Understatement of the year?
A mile.
A mile and a half. That sounds far, maybe.
Yeah.
But you have to translate that into time at those speeds, right?
Exactly. At Mach 3, 3 times the speed of sound, covering a mile takes, well, barely any time at all. That distance, a mile or a mile and a half, translates to just 2 seconds from impact. 2 seconds.
2 seconds. Wow. That puts it in perspective. Yeah, chills. No wonder Rosenberg mentioned he felt pretty relieved when we got on the ground that nothing and nothing else happened. I bet he did. You know, this whole incident really stands as this powerful testament to the SR-71's, well, radical design philosophy. It's almost counterintuitive when you think about it. In an era where everyone else was focused on maneuverability, maybe stealth was starting to be a thing. Kelly Johnson, the Blackbird's designer, this absolute genius, he made his incredible bet on pure, unadulterated speed as a primary defense. He actually predicted years before that even when it is detected, the Blackbird proves just too fast to catch. And this incident over North Korea, it's not just a thrilling war story. It's like the ultimate validation of that entire philosophy.
It absolutely is. It proved to be an unmatched defense mechanism. I mean, think about it. The Soviets, they even specifically developed the MiG-25 jet fighter, the Foxbat. That was a powerful, high-altitude interceptor designed pretty much with the express purpose of trying to bring down the Blackbird. That was its job. And yet, despite all those efforts, despite countless missions flown deep into hostile airspace all over the world, not a single SR-71 is ever lost to enemy fire. Not one. It's an absolutely unmatched record in the history of aviation. Really, nothing like it before or since.
So when we step back, when we pull back and look at the bigger picture here,
Yeah.
what does this extraordinary incident, this close call, really tell us? For me, it just hammers home how the SR-71 Blackbird's sheer, unparalleled speed wasn't just some impressive performance statistic on a page. It was its most critical, its most fundamental built-in defense mechanism. It's what made it virtually untouchable even when facing advanced surface-to-air missiles like that one.
Yeah, and if we connect that to the broader context, this event perfectly illustrates how a very specific, you could say, revolutionary design philosophy, prioritizing extreme speed and altitude above everything else, even maneuverability, how that led directly to an unmatched operational record. It provided decades of absolutely vital intelligence gathering, often under the most dangerous, most hostile conditions imaginable, all because it was just too fast to catch.
Which really brings us to a final thought, something provocative for you, our listener, to consider.
Yeah, this whole story, it raises a really interesting question, especially today, in an era where weaponry is becoming increasingly sophisticated, hypersonic missiles, advanced AI targeting. How might innovative design principles, maybe principles like the SR-71's focus on simply outrunning danger, how might those continue to shape and redefine the future? Not just in intelligence gathering, but maybe even in the fundamental dynamics of modern conflict itself. What other unconventional solutions, what other ways of thinking outside the box might be the next game changer?